During the next half hour, you are going to see and hear the report of a remarkable recovery from mental illness. The story is unusual because you will get a first-hand report from the woman who actually experienced the illness and recovery. This unrehearsed film was made at Dixmont State Hospital near Pittsburgh, and the interview is conducted by Dr. Herbert Levitt, Director of Psychological Services there.
When you didn't snap back normally, then what did you do?
Oh, my husband and I talked about seeing doctors, and I did. I saw, well, 2 psychiatrists that I remember. I was hospitalized in 2 private sanitariums and did everything that I knew to do at home for myself. It's a good thing that my family were patient. They were very patient with me. My friends were wonderful to me. But soon they stopped coming because, I mean, after all, I was boring. I mean, why should they come? There wasn't any fun at our house. I mean, our house completely changed.
After you went to these different places, did that have any effect on your attitude towards yourself?
I was fearful that I never was going to get well. I guess I kept saying, well, there's no hope for me. I'm just never going to get well.
Was that a very strong feeling?
Oh, very strong. I guess I told everybody that would listen to me that I wasn't ever going to get well.
When you felt this badly, was there ever a time that you felt that life wasn't worth living?
Oh, certainly. Surely you do. You don't want to live. I mean, I knew that I was missing an awful lot because I'd always been very active. And I loved my family, my husband, my son, and loved keeping house. And I guess I just sat. So I knew that life didn't have any meaning.
Throughout this time, did you notice any change in your feelings towards your family?
Well, I guess I didn't care whether they came or... I mean, it just didn't matter. I mean, 1 hour just... It's just, you're just in a sort of a world all of your own. I mean, 1 hour goes and you don't realize that it's even gone. I mean, you don't even realize that time's dragging, really. I mean, you're sorry that you see the next day's light, I'll tell you that. And then I didn't sleep at night. I don't know. I don't remember too much about it now.
Did your family understand that your change in feelings was due to illness?
My husband did. My son did. My son criticized his father because I was not hospitalized here sooner than I was. But he wouldn't part with me, I guess. He knew that I was very ill. But then I think you would have to know that person's feeling, too. I mean, that's an awful big step to take, yeah. But I'm sorry now that I wasn't hospitalized sooner. I know that if I had been hospitalized sooner, that I would have gotten well that much faster. And I just missed, well, almost 5 years of my life. But I'm picking them up very quickly. And I mean, it's almost... It's so dim in my mind now, it's hard for me to recall many of these events.
Do you think it would have made much difference in your attitude if your family was not as patient and understanding?
I don't think I think anybody could have just done most anything with me. There were times, I guess, that I really felt more strongly that they should do something for me, and asked that I be hospitalized. But it was because of my husband's illness, and I think he realized how desperately I needed to be hospitalized. I think that's why the decision was made at the time that it was made.
Do you remember coming into the hospital here?
No, sir.
You don't remember anything about the first few days or weeks here?
Maybe, probably was the first week. I just kept telling everybody he couldn't think and he couldn't talk with them and didn't have anything to say. Thank you.
That's a little unnatural for you, isn't it?
Yes, I'm kind of a chatterbox.
There's an awful lot of fear attached to being sick, isn't there?
Why, certainly. Because you're just not thinking. If you're an intelligent thinker at all, I mean, if you know that it's talked about so much, and naturally you have that fear. Well, I just never thought I was ever going to get well.
Well, many people are afraid of hospitals, but you feel that if you had come sooner...
Oh, they shouldn't have any fear, really. I had wonderful care here. Everybody was just wonderful to me. The attendants, the staff, they should have no fear about coming. It's a wonderful place to be. It was my home for almost a year. And I've made wonderful friends here that I hope that I will always keep. So is it such a bad place to be?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't either.
Now, you remember some of the treatment that you had here.
Yes.
What was the first thing that you remember?
Remember the admitting doctor at the time talking with me? No, I don't remember that. Yeah? Vaguely, very vaguely. I had shock treatment here. That I remember. But that bends in your mind. And I remember our first visit.
How did you feel about the shock treatment?
Oh, I was frightened. But they're really not anything to be frightened of. You have wonderful care when you're having those treatments. Every precaution is taken, and you have wonderful care.
Feeling empty and depressed doesn't keep you from being frightened, does it?
Oh, no. No, you're frightened. Surely, you are. You're frightened.
Do you remember what it was about shock treatments that was so frightening?
Well, that last-minute jar. I don't know how they do it. I would never want to see them done. I mean, it's just a matter. It's just for a moment. You just sort of have a snuffed-out feeling. I mean, you feel like, well, this is it. But it's just a second, and that's all there is to it.
Is it a very painful thing?
Well, there isn't any pain attached to it at all, as I recall. You're given Tennisol before, aren't you?
Something. How do you feel just after the treatment?
Well, now let me see. Oh, you're uplifted, as I recall. Because I know that my family visited me after I had shock treatments, and they were so uplifted themselves because they thought I was almost my very own self just after a few shock treatments.
Had you had shock treatments before you came here?
I had 4, I believe, and they were not given as they are given here. That's why I think I had fear of shock treatments when I came here, because when they were given, I was left alone. And here, as I recall, there were 7 or 8 people around me, nurses and doctors and attendants, and people stayed with you all the time. But the shock treatments that I was given, I was allowed to come out of them myself. And I just wandered around because well, that's not the way to give them.
Being alone is a very frightening thing.
Oh, certainly. Because you have that awful alone feeling anyhow. And to waken and be in a room all by yourself after you've had an experience like that, naturally anyone would be frightened. You'd have to be an awful brave person not to be.
During the course of having shock treatments, did you notice any change in your feelings?
Well, before I said I couldn't cry, and it seems to me after I had a few shock treatments, I was able to cry. I was real happy when I could cry. You know, it's nice to cry once in a while, especially if you're a little gal.
At what point in your shock treatments did you begin to feel a little bit different?
Well, I think probably toward the last of the shock treatments. I often wondered how you knew just exactly how many to give. Don't you remember you and I discussed that before? It's kind of a miraculous sort of thing. It's always been to me, just how do you know how many to give, when to stop? And
That's pretty much an individual thing.
well, I assumed it was. I thought that because I've known that some have had more than others and some less. I think I had 15 shock treatments here. I'm not sure.
Somewhere along the line, you and I started talking about the things that were bothering you.
Well, we started talking about the things that were bothering me as soon as we met.
You still had pretty strong feelings of emptiness and hopelessness at that time.
Well, I remember telling you that I was never going to get well because I had tried to do it on my own. I had done everything that I'd been asked to do, and I felt hopeless. And you said to me, I remember what you said. You said, you're not doing this alone. We are doing this together. And when you feel that you have help, I guess, when I knew that you were working with me, then there was more hope.
As the talks continued, do you remember how your feelings towards yourself changed?
Oh, I began to see things in an entirely different light. I wanted to look nice when my family came. I guess I began to be concerned about how my hair looked and what kind of an appearance I made. I remember I always wanted to look nice when I went to your office. I do remember that. On the days that I knew that I was going to be talking with you. I always thought about the night, but that's like a little gal when they know they're...
How did you spend your days during that time?
Well, much of your day here at Dixmont is planned. We played cards. We were allowed to go down to the recreation room at certain times and have a cigarette. We looked forward to having our lunch. And then we could always smoke then, after lunch. Sometimes we'd stay down for a few minutes. If we'd been real good gals, we were granted privileges. When I started to get well, I was allowed, my son came and took me to the Hilton one day. Of course, I looked forward to that. We had recreation in the evening. Every evening we had recreation. We had dances. Records, they played records, we played cards. Remember how concerned I was about not being able to play bridge? I said I couldn't go because I couldn't play bridge. And the attendants at the hospital are wonderful. I've often thought that they were dedicated, really. I don't know whether I could do a job like it because their work is not easy. They have so many different personalities to deal with. And they were very patient at night when we were getting ready for bed. They were always talk with us and ask us about our families. We had what we called an OT shop where we did sewing, where we could create things ourselves. We helped each other. Patients are very important to each other. But that's just like on the outside. People are very important to each other. But some people don't realize that. I mean, after all, we can't live alone. We need each other. Patients help each other because I know that some of the patients help me. And I, in turn, probably help some of the others.
After a certain point in your treatment, you were assigned to work in an area in the hospital. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I worked in the kitchen.
What kind of things did you do there?
We took care of the counter work. We dried dishes. We washed and dried dishes, just like you would do in your own kitchen at home. And that's a big help because when you can follow through, when you're given a job and you can follow through that, and then you can do something on your own, it's a lift to a patient. I mean, that gives you the good feeling of really being needed, because we all want to be needed and know that what we're doing is right. Supervision in the kitchen was wonderful. You sort of felt like maybe you were the chosen one. I think there were 8 of us worked together at one time. The food at the hospital is wonderful. We received it at our kitchen piping hot. Everything in the kitchen was just spotless. In fact, everything at the hospital here is kept spotlessly clean. I mean, you have clean linen. Never did you feel that you weren't in a place that was clean.
Was it easy or difficult to fit into the hospital routine?
It was easy, very easy. In fact, it sort of frightened me. It was so easy. I felt that I had just fallen into a routine of things. That was one of my concerns. It was made, things were very nice. And I think maybe sometimes it is made too nice for the patient. Do you follow me?
How do you mean?
Well, they just sort of get into a routine of things, and some people aren't. You have that feeling, well, here now, when I do go into the outside world, everything has kind of been planned, and it's just you do this at a certain time. But, and, you know, when you're on the outside world, when you're planning your own life, some people fall into easy living. Do you follow me?
Why do you say the outside world?
Well, you sort of feel, you sort of have that feeling that you're they're apart from you.
What kind of feeling is that?
Well, now let me see. Just like it's a different world. You're in a world all of your own when you are mentally ill.
Is it a pleasant world or a frightening world or a safe world?
No, it's frightening. I was frightened all the time. In fact, I prayed that I would never see another day until I started to get well, and then I wanted to see the next day.
Your husband died early in your hospitalization here, didn't he?
I was hospitalized in August, as I recall, and my husband died in October, the 30th of October.
How long did it really take you to accept the fact that he had died?
Oh, my son told me that his father died, but I didn't realize it. It didn't register the first time I was told. Actually, I don't recall. It seems to me that it began to really register, when I started having my visits with you.
This was about the time that you thought you could cry.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had been asked if I didn't want to go home, and I had said no, I think on 3 different occasions, that I was just not quite ready. You know, actually. You know when you're ready to go home. When you can, it's sort of hard to go out and face people. You wonder how they're going to accept you. I had the feeling that I had to go back to my hometown and prove that I was just like the little gal I was before I became ill. But people have been wonderful to me. Really, they have. My employer couldn't have been nicer. My friends, everybody's just been wonderful to me. Really, they have.
Do you think it makes a lot of difference when someone leaves the hospital, how the community reacts to them?
Well, Doctor, I've never had one say anything. And if they have, it certainly has been unwittingly. I mean, they haven't, well, just in your course of conversation, you can't guard every word that you speak. And I've met many people that didn't even know that I was hospitalized. And I mean, it's never mentioned. If it is mentioned, I'm happy to talk about it. I had no feeling about having been here. In fact, I feel that I'm a better person for having had my illness. I'm more patient, more humble. It didn't hurt me. I gained from having had the experience. It's not nice to be ill, but then it didn't hurt me any.
What do you think there was in psychotherapy that helped you the most?
Well, simply, actually, when you are as ill as I, you just don't think. And you made me think again. You really did.
In what way?
From the questions that you asked me. Don't you know? I said to you, you're making me think. You actually made me think. You asked me about things that I had done when I was a little girl. Christmases that I had enjoyed. You made me talk about my husband, which was the best thing in the world. I had to talk it out.
How did you feel about being asked those questions at the time?
I didn't mind, really. I didn't mind. You asked me one question, I remember, and I evaded you, and you were so smart. You said, you're not telling me the truth. And, I don't know. I just feel if anyone is ill, they should certainly get help as quickly as they can. Because why should you lose one day of your precious life? When you can live it to the fullest, why should you be losing time?
Towards the end of psychotherapy, when you were feeling pretty much your old self, do you remember what your attitude was about going home?
I looked forward to going home, really. I couldn't wait until they came for me. And I really haven't had any trouble since I've been home. I've had a very full life, very, very full life. I don't know that I ever felt better in my life.
Were there times when you first got home that you felt a little bit doubtful?
Well, just the night that I went home, I sort of had a sinking feeling because my husband wasn't there. It was just a matter of, well, no, you're on your own, you know. From now on. But just for a moment, no, I've never, I really haven't felt depressed.
During the course of your hospitalization and going home, was there a change in your feelings of self-confidence?
Oh, I had lost my self-confidence when I was here, but then I regained it. I mean, you all helped me to regain my self-confidence. I mean, your talks and the way the attendants treat you. Well, sometimes you don't know a patient from an attendant or an outside worker. I mean, I was asked one night where I came from, if I was from WIIC or where I was from. So, I mean, the people that come in to help, actually, some of the patients, just before they're ready, or they're just almost as well, they're as well as you people.
How long have you been home now?
I thought it was just 2 years in April, but you said it was 3. It must be 3, because my husband will have been there 3 years. It'll be 3 years this April. And this is April.
How has that 3 years gone for you?
Oh, so quickly. Time goes too fast. As you get a little older, it goes much too fast. I'm working. I've been to California. Have a busy life. Really don't have the time to do all of the things that I want to do.
Has anything happened in your own family?
My son's been married. We have a new baby. And so lucky.
How does it feel to be a grandmother?
Well, it's, let me warn you, makes you feel your age.
Here is Dr. John E. Davis, Commissioner of Mental Health of the Office of Mental Health, Department of Public Welfare of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
The woman in the film you've just seen is quite willing to admit that she had failed at the social level. She was willing to accept help. She needed it. She wanted it. But because of the attitude of her family, her treatment was too long delayed. It made hospitalization imperative, and as a result of this, she lost a considerable segment of her life. The fears and anxieties that grow out of attitudes toward the state mental hospitals are unfounded. Unfortunately, many of us still retain the old image of the state mental hospital from many years back as being the place to which we sent our poor unfortunates of our society to live out a life of rejection and isolation from the rest of the community. This was so because it could be done at a minimum of cost and concern to the community. This image is no longer a true reflection of the existing state of affairs today. Dramatic progress has been made in many areas, and although much remains to be done, we recognize we have gained much. Our hospitals have now become truly hospitals, concerned with the treatment and restoration of the ill, and demanding their rightful place in the community as part of the total medical resources of the community in its treatment of its ill. There are now active treatment programs in existence everywhere. Our hospitals have become increasingly more open, and the basic program is one of 24-hour therapeutic community in which the endeavors of all the staff are directed toward helping the patient to recover and return to his family as rapidly as possible. The woman in this film is proof that mental illness is not hopeless, but can be treated as in the case of other illnesses. She is representative of patients in our other state mental hospitals. The treatment programs she describes are representative of those in our other mental hospitals. At the present time, over 90% of our patients are returning to the community within a year. A significant percentage are returning within 3 months. Early treatment is important. The earlier the treatment, the better chance for recovery, perhaps even complete avoidance of hospitalization in a mental hospital. In recent years, thousands of patients have undergone treatment early enough in their illness so that they could be treated in their local general to as little as 3 or 4 weeks. These are but illustrations of the tremendous progress made and of what it is possible to accomplish with what we already know. At the same time, it is important that we face up to harsh realities. We are still far from having the resources and the tools that are essential in the development of a comprehensive mental health program, making available the best treatment for all our citizens. Such programs are not only expensive in terms of cost to the Commonwealth and to the community, but are expensive in terms of coordinated efforts needed on the part of all of us. However, the cost in money and expenditure in effort is insignificant in the terms of relief of human suffering, family tragedies, and economic loss to the community. But this program is one that is not just the responsibility of our doctors, of our social workers, of our professional personnel in the mental health field. It is one that is the responsibility of the total community. It is a problem of such magnitude that it can truly be met only by rallying all of our citizens in the battle against mental illness.
We wish to thank Dr. Joseph A. Camarada, Superintendent at Dixmont State Hospital, for his cooperation in filming this program, and to thank Dr. Davis for his participation. This is Ray Stewart reminding you that thousands of recovered mental patients return to their communities each year. Please do your part in accepting them and making them sincerely welcome. Thank you.